Welcome to the International Short Course in Advanced Physics, conducted by KJ Somaya College of Science and Commerce, Mumbai, India. I am Dr. Puneet Kumar from Department of Physics, University of Lucknow, and I am talking to you on the current scenario of plasma for future. This is second module titled Research and Applications of Plasma. In this module, we will be talking of the research going in the area of plasma physics, nuclear fusion, the experiment of ITER, particle acceleration through plasma, non-thermal plasmas, and gasification through plasma. The research in plasmas is quite an encouraging field these days. It currently involves the following fields of active research, and papers are being published through all kinds of journals relating to all the impact factor ranges. The primary studies basic plasmas focus on plasma equilibrium and stability, the plasma interactions with waves and beams, as these interactions promise a uh, lot of experiments and achievables in the future. Studies on the natural plasmas, that's the physical plasmas, the plasmas in the Earth's ionosphere, the intergalactic medium plasma, and all kinds of space plasma. The industrial plasma study concerns with the plasma chemistry, plasma processing, plasma spray, plasma display, plasma sources, and dusty plasma. Dusty plasmas are basically presence of charged dust particles in the plasma, and they quite influence the nature of plasma. We have studies concerning plasma diagnostics. There are different kinds of diagnostic tools that we have to study the kinds of the quality of the plasma generated. The most promising and the most up and coming is the plasma application industry, which lot of applications enlisted here and more to come. The major applications include magnetic fusion, plasma weapons, plasma etching, plasma acceleration, plasma medicine. Plasma medicine is the topic of our third module that we will be discussing after this module. So we start with nuclear fusion. Basically, the nuclear fusion is a combination of two lighter atomic nuclei to form a heavier nucleus with release of energy. And here we have in the diagram the two fusion of deuterium and tritium. Both of them fuse to create a helium nucleus and a free neutron and an energy of 17.59 MeV in terms of the kinetic energy, which is in an agreement with the Einstein's equation of E is equal to delta mc square, where delta m is the decrease in the total mass of the species of particles. The fusion reactions are much cleaner, that is, no radioactive particles of long life are emitted, unlike fission reactions. The other example advantages of the nuclear fusion are we have an inexhaustible supply of deuterium, as ocean water contains 0.015% of deuterium by weight. And of course, we know the percentage of what seawater that we have on Earth. The thermonuclear neutrons carry the energy released as kinetic energy, which is used to drive a turbine to produce electricity. There is a criterion called the Lawson criteria, which shows that how energy output varies with the temperature, density, speed of collision, and fuel. This equation was derived by John Lawson, And during his analysis of fusion working with hot plasma, and he assumed the charge energy balance equation. This energy balance equation is called the Lawson criteria, and it says that for a net energy gain, the interacting particles have to be held close to each other enough for a long time for sufficient fusion reaction to take place. And this condition is that the particle density multiplied by the holding time should be of this order. For deuterium tritium reaction and 10 power 15 for deuterium deuterium reaction. Now, as we see from Lawson criteria, we have to confine a particle, a definite density of a particle for a definite time. The product should be of this order. Now, confinement, we have three kinds of confinement. The first one is the gravitational confinement, which is the natural confinement due to the gravity of the particles. The second one is the inertial confinement, which we can do by employing intense energy beams, which is called inertial confinement. And third one is the magnetic confinement, which we achieve by application of external magnetic fields. The magnetic confinement of plasma, basically it is due to the Lorentz force that makes the charged particles go around in a helical path around the lines of force. This inhibits plasma expansion perpendicular to the magnetic field in a confinement. And this is being used, this confinement is being used in the tokamak experiments, which are going right now in many countries of the world. And that the major experiment which is being planned called ITER, it is the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. We will be discussing it about this reactor. The second one is the inertial confinement. The heating is within a few nanoseconds so that the heated fuel cannot expand much during that time. It remains confined by its inertia. As the density is high within this time, the Lawson criteria is satisfied. And this mode of fusion is called the inertial confinement fusion. And the problem here is that for this to happen, we need to have lasers with megajoule levels of energy. Such laser systems have been built in USA and France and are quite operational. In fact, we have built laser systems quite ahead of this level. Now we come to the magnetic confinement, the practical experiments. Right now, from see the diagram, there are many experiments have been planned for the future to achieve nuclear fusion on Earth. The primary experiment whose preparation is going on will start in 2025. The preparations are going on, and we aim to achieve the nuclear fusion by 2040. And this experiment is the ITER, like I told earlier. It is the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, and it's the world's largest magnetic confinement plasma physics experiment, and it will be one of the greatest experiments that the scientists on Earth have planned. It is an exponential experimental tokamak that is being built next to the CADAR facility in southern France. ITER has been designed to create a plasma of 500 megawatts for about 20 minutes. The project is funded by and run by seven member entities: the European Union, China, India, Japan, Russia, South Korea, and USA. The construction of the ITER tokamak complex started in 2013. The total price of the construction and operations are expected to be in excess of 20 billion euros. The goal of ITER is to demonstrate the scientific and technological feasibility of fusion energy for use. ITER's planned successor, DEMO, is expected to be the first fusion reactor to produce electricity in an experimental environment. The demo phase is expected to lead to full-scale electricity producing fusion power stations and future commercial reactors. And in fact, like what I mentioned, that these are the seven countries which have initially started. Now, some other countries have also joined. Here we can see that what the collaborating countries are doing. I would like to talk about India. India is making the cryostat for the device and parts of the vacuum vessel. These have already been delivered to the construction site. These are the project milestones. The planning started in 1988. The construction is started in 2013. We expect that the construction will be complete by 2023, and we plan to have the first plasma in the device on 2025 and the first fusion in 2035. Let's see how much we succeed here, and it's at the present it's going on pace. This is a photograph of the construction site, 2 years old photograph because the recent ones are not there. The second most important aspect of plasma physics is the plasma based electron acceleration. We know we are quite familiar with the uses of the accelerators in both the medical and the academic uses. The primary principle of a plasma based electron acceleration is a wake. What is a wake? In a sea, you must have witnessed when a high speed ship is going, it creates waves traveling backwards in this shape. This is called wave. There's quite, you must have noticed, quite huge amount of oscillations in the water behind that are left as the ship passes, high speed boat passes. And when a particle, we want to accelerate a particle, when we make that particle incident of these kind of waves, then the energy from these waves can be transferred to the particle. This is the basis of the wake field acceleration. And why these kind of accelerators? What will be the advantages of these accelerators? At present, we are having the RF cavity accelerator. The cavity of 1 meter gives me a gain of 50 million electrons. 50 MeV gain we get in 1 meter of length. But with a plasma cavity for 1 millimeter of length, we will get an energy of 100 MeV. The energy will be twice, but the length will be quite short. Similarly, the electric field here is less than 100 MV per meter, and here the electric field is quite greater than 100 GV per meter. See the order, it's gigawatt. Here it was MV. The research in this accelerator physics started in 1979 on the publication of a paper by Tajima and Dawson. This is a historic paper that was published, and it was a milestone in the development of the plasma based particle accelerators, and it's one of the most cited papers in history of plasma physics. The experimental verification of this concept came in 2004 when three experimental reports were published in a single issue of Nature, which is the most cited journal of science. And these three experiments on the development of wake field acceleration were reported in this issue. The plasma based particle accelerators, what makes the system potentially useful is the possibility of generating waves, very high charge separation that travel through the plasma. When an intense short laser pulse is fired into a plasma wave can be launched and the duration of the laser pulse must be approximately equal to the period of the plasma wave, that is for the to achieve the resonance and for the transfers of energy. As the pulse rises and falls, the plasma electron density oscillates. The force doing this is the Pondermotive force, working along the direction of the pulse and results in the generation of a plasma wave in the wake of the laser pulse. This leads to a small area of very strong potential gradient following the laser pulse. It is this wake field that is used for the particle acceleration. Firstly, we will have a nonlinear ponderomotive force which is produced. This force is generated by the interaction of the intense laser pulse and the plasma. You can see the ponderomotive force, the bunch of electrons. We can have acceleration directly by the ponderomotive force also, but the acceleration gradient will be quite low in that case. And this ponderomotive force excites a plasma wave. And when an incident particle, which is to be accelerated, comes in resonance with this wave, it will get accelerated. And the second process is the generation of the wave field. And we have four kinds of wake field accelerators. The first is the plasma wake field accelerator, where the electron plasma wave is formed by an electron or proton bunch. Second is a laser wake field accelerator, which we called LWFA, where a laser pulse is introduced to form an electron plasma wave. Third one is the plasma beat wave accelerator, PBWA, where the electron plasma wave arises based on the frequency difference of the laser pulses. And the fourth one is the self-modulated laser wake field accelerator, where the electron plasma wave is formed by a laser pulse modulated by stimulated Raman forward scattering and stability. Now we come to non-thermal plasma. A non-thermal cold plasma or non-equilibrium plasma, there are different names to the same plasma, kind of plasma, is not in thermal dynamic equilibrium. That means the electron temperature is higher than the temperature of the heavy species, that is the ions and the neutral particles. Example is a mercury vapor gas in a fluorescent lamp, where the electron is at about 19,700 degrees centigrade, while the rest of the gas, ions, and neutral atoms are barely above the room temperature. So the bulb can even be touched with hands while operating. The applications of these kind of plasmas are in food industry for antimicrobial treatment, in medicines for sterilization and certain treatments that we'll be discussing later on, for power generation, where direct energy conversion method from a hot gas is motion with magnetic field. Aerospace, the aerodynamic active low flow control solutions involving technological non-thermal plasmas for supersonic and hypersonic flight are being studied. Catalysis, the atmospheric pressure non-thermal plasma, can be used to promote chemical reactions. Collisions between hot temperature electrons and cold gas molecules can lead to dissociation reactions and the subsequent formation of radicals. This kind of discharge exhibits reacting properties that are usually seen in high temperature discharge system. Non-thermal plasma is also used in conjunction with a catalyst to further enhance the chemical conversion of reactants or to alter the product's chemical composition. The atmospheric plasmas are having quite range of applications for sterilization, inflammation, surface activation, wound treatment, dental bleaching, cancer treatment, etc. Now we come to plasma gasification. It converts organic matter into a synthetic gas, which is primarily made of hydrogen and carbon monoxide. A plasma torch powered by an electric arc used to ionize gas and catalyze organic matter into synthetic gas, and with slag as a remaining byproduct. These small plasma torches typically use an inert gas such as argon, where larger torches require nitrogen. The electrodes are made up of copper, tungsten, zinc, etc., along with various other alloys. A strong electric current and a high voltage passes between the two electrodes as an electric arc. Pressurized inert gas is ionized passing through the plasma created by the arc. The torch temperature ranges from 2000 to 14,000 degrees centigrade. The temperature of the plasma reaction determines the structure of the plasma and forming gas. Here we can see a diagram of this kind of a device where the material is being dumped into a furnace which is having air inlet, and there is a plasma torch, and this plasma torch is used to create plasma, and this matter is burned, producing synthetic gas which can be used to generate power and other byproducts. This is also a schematic diagram where the biomass feed to the furnace that will give me these kind of products as remain, and the synthetic gas from which we can have power and all. And the advantages are the preventing hazards from waste from reaching landfills. Some processes are designed to recover fly ash, bottom ash, and most other particulars for 95% or better diversion from landfills and no harmful emissions of toxic waste. Potential production of vitrified slag, which could be used as construction material, processing of biomass waste into combustible synthetic gas for electric power and thermal energy, production of value added products from slag, safe means to destroy both medical and many other hazardous waste, gasification with starved combustion, and rapid quenching of synthetic gas from elevated temperatures can avoid the productions of dioxins and furans that are common to incinerators. Air emissions can be cleaner than landfills and similar to that of incinerators. And we end this module. Thanks for patient listening. The next module, that will be third module, will be on plasma medicine. That module will be divided into two, and the first part of that module will be on the kinds of plasma, non-thermal plasmas, and the generation of the non-thermal plasma for the medical uses. And the second part of that will be on the medical applications of those plasmas. I thank you for a patient listening.